I cannot get enough of Final Fantasy content, and I'm really sorry that I've been beating the same horse. But this is me reacting to another video from Maximilian Dude. If you don't know who he is, you don't fight games or you don't love Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy in general. But I missed this content clearly the past month because I've been working, and I want to know more because like he is the TLDR is that he's on an article and he's reading things. There's pictures, but he then goes into his breakdown of what he has learned, and I want to know and comment along with this video to see what's going on because I love the universe of Final Fantasy. And just like everybody's realized, in the original game, it was only marketed all it was marketed in 1997 that all you're ever going to be doing is in Midgard, but the trailers never show you going into the world that is affected by the Shinra Corporation. It's not showing you the world that is affected by all this corporation drilling and drawing of the Mako energy. So we're gonna go into this breakdown, and we're gonna break down along with them. I'm excited.
A whole bunch of still looks good. Still looks very nice. There's a whole bunch of clear signs here. The world and environment that they're setting up for, the overall open world, isn't really open world like, and that wouldn't surprise me because it does not need to be open world like. And we've been saying this several times, open world doesn't make a lot of sense. Large zones, wide linear, quote unquote, is probably the way to go. And there's another game that's perfectly like that, that Simmons is fantastically obsessed with, and has been obsessed with a long time. A little couple of games called the Xenoblade series, and they're pretty similar to that. I don't expect them to go as big and expansive as Xenoblade, where you're gonna like dive into this ocean and swim across like all of it, but even Simmons agreed to a certain point. There's going to be, he sees a lot of similarity because he's like an expert in how those games are designed and why they are the way they are. There's a lot of similarity here, which is good.
And like to comment on that, like just the idea of like there's not a lot that the original game, not that remake copy. There's not a lot of Final Fantasy remake that copy from the original game because again we covered the game that we just played remake only covered 5 hours of the content that's in the 1997 title. So for them, if they were to thematically copy one for one the time it takes to travel and the amount of times you have to do random encounters, just moving outside of the world of Final Fantasy VII is going to be arduous. But it was, for that time, it was beautiful. So I'm just hoping it's pointing toward a direction to where everything is going to be much closer than how it looks in Final Fantasy 1997. So I'm excited for like what their direction is and how they're gonna bridge the worlds, bridge the stations of labs together, and the way they bridge cities and make them closer together.
And they're touting exploration. They're touting this as being a big element like that. So, you know, it's a good sign. That is a cat dog man bear
Cat,
big Pittsburgh
cat
thing.
dog daddy,
That is
a beautiful flower girl.
a normal girl. Nothing bad will happen to her.
Nothing bad will happen.
That is a horrible, freakish mother.
And like this monster entirely, again, if you guys don't remember, this was a monster we had to fight immediately. This is a fight similar to that of when we interacted with Rufus Shinra and the events around that, where Sephiroth got in there. He continued the canon, event of killing President Shinra, and then stabbed Barrett. Fate Phantoms, Phantoms of Fate come in, save Barrett, so they're not bad. They're a neutral party, and this is of Sephiroth's spawn, of which we have to deal with.
The likes of which you should never see. Somebody, I was looking at some info, and people were trying to get some sweet deets off of the character health bars. because in some battle sequences,
Yeah.
check this out. They start at relative lower health. Come across some screenshots. At
It
least
probably
in the beginning.
it probably from this like instance, I'm just really guessing that like I'm assuming from what the developers have done, they've essentially just like took another chunk of Final Fantasy and chop it up into this digestible bite, but made you live in that world even further. So much like how Remake was a 40 plus hour game, 50-hour plus game, depending on how much time you commit to it. It's within the confines of this region, but the story is so dense and so rich, you don't notice that it's covering such a short area when it could be expanded even further. So, are we gonna see Vincent in this game? No, I don't know. Are we gonna run into Yuffie? That's guaranteed. Are we gonna run into more details about Zack? I don't know. But from the way this looks, this is already introducing the idea that we meet Yuffie at some point at the factory. And I don't know if that same factory is where we're going to meet Vincent. Or in those mines, we're going to meet Vincent. Is that a thing? So it's again like maybe a digestible bite amongst that area that we have yet to discuss or see.
The characters actually have like health in the hundreds. You know, it's low, so it's obviously we're resetting. It's a different.
Yeah, it's
game.
a reset. It's a big
not
reset.
the same
It's a big reset, but again, it's in the same vein that the first game covered a section. This will cover another section of the much broader world that is Final Fantasy VII.
Over of abilities and stuff. I'd be very surprised. They might give you like an Easter egg or something for having your stuff carry over, but it's a new game, so the characters are like in their low thousands. And then people were trying to track down, in some fights, characters had like 5,000 HP, and it was like, oh shit. So how far?
That's probably like late game.
The game. That's like halfway through the game. But in like the next shot, which is this, obviously of the Genova fight, seemingly the one that you fight on the ship when you cross Julian Harbor to Costa del Sol.
Meet.
Because again, this is discussing like potential content that I personally have not played, but I'm familiar with Union Harbor because when I was a kid, I really enjoyed the cutscene between Angeal, Genesis, and Sephiroth because that was a training grounds for the three of them. So like that's what I really enjoyed from that area.
Here though, right? When you cross Julian Harbor to Costa del Sol, this is likely here though, right? People are like, yo, is that halfway through the game? And believe it or not, no. Like, and this sequence happens even after that, and they have lower health pool. So it's just a debug thing. This isn't a barometer of how far into the game are you? How far into the game is this?
It's not a good. It's not a faithful storyteller.
To, 9999 are we getting? It's actually not. We're close to Julian Harbor here, right? Getting up on the rocky hill shores.
And they're learning
construction stuff. So sick.
So the fact that we're learning, so from what he's explaining, we go from, I don't know if we'll start in that like open plains in the beginning of the next game, but this is like right before we get to Julian Harbor where we're gonna probably meet Yuffie, so that won't be like until a couple hours into the game, after just the shaking idea that like, who's telling the truth in this story? Because again, in the beginning of the gameplay trailer, it's showing bodies of Barrett, Aerith and the crew, Aerith, Tifa, and the rest of the guys. It shows everybody but Cloud, and we don't see signs of Zack, because we're under the impression that if Zack made it to the city after the tornado, the same time that Aerith and, because like it shows in the ending of Final Fantasy Remake that Cloud and Aerith are passing by Zack and Cloud. Cloud and Aerith is passing Zack and Cloud. Yeah, because like what we don't know is whether or not Zack is going to be a side story that is going to happen in the background, or we're going to be playing as two characters in a much bigger game, hence the 2 disc to like contain this world because we don't know who's going to be telling this complete timeline. Because like, is it going to be two timelines playing at the same time, or is it one big timeline with two different perspectives? In the same way that Sephiroth is back from the future, is Zack in the background the entire time since that singularity point.
Commands menu. Looks like summons is down here. That's interesting. Summons is down here in the commands menu. I wonder how different that is before, but Aerith has her ward shift and stuff like that she had before. Is ward shift new?
Ward shift is her
Tifa
old
was
thing of hers.
bouncing off of this attack. Maybe that's actually her combination attack with Tifa? I don't know.
Yeah.
My God, bro.
Because what I'm thinking is that in that fun combination move, Aerith casted a dual casted barrier and another spell, so that way Tifa is bouncing off the barrier. It's a really fun move.
The scale, though, I think that's what I'm getting out of some of these images, is the scale of Midgar was wonderful, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was just absolutely beautiful how massive the world felt in comparison to your characters, and that's what was a great element of OGFF7 was the scale of the game felt so big compared to how small you were in it. I can only imagine. I don't know how this is going to do. I don't know if it's going to be zone based, where you literally go into loading zones or stuff like that. Are you going to like walk up here with no loading in between all of this? It's hard to say, but this could be all a facade. You got to understand, everything in video games is essentially a facade. Once you walk through this area, it could just load a completely different thing that makes you go up here, right?
It's like because it's a really, because if you remember correctly, like after the fall of the plate, which again, actually now that I think about it, the plate falling already happened. And the plate fall already happened before you climbed Shinra Tower. So now that I'm like backstepping what I said, I'm wondering if those bodies of Tifa and the gang, are those just are those just bodies from a different timeline, in the same way that are they from the same timeline that Sephiroth and our Aerith came from? Because again, timelines are being mixed and crossed, and are they just dead bodies from the live stream? It's hard to really tell, because it's not going to be bodies from What If Zack stories. It's now I'm questioning if it's bodies from What If Sephiroth took them back with him, the same way that Aerith took back like the Phantoms of Fate with her in that alleyway when she met Cloud for the first time.
All video games are is an insanely expressive dynamic loading hallway. That's all video games are, and they just populate it with stuff like it's a ride at Disneyland. I wouldn't be surprised if we get to explore this stuff. My question is, are we going to be able to visit locations like this, right, on our way to Junyuan Harbor?
I believe so.
To be harsh loading sequences, or are they going to God of War style it, where there is an essential loading period in between certain areas that essentially buffers in the data for the next area, and it's seamless? FF7 tried to do this, but had loading issues with the Unreal Engine. There was a lot of, sliding through walls and stuff like that.
I didn't notice that.
Can we literally run from this location, once it's all unlocked and done, through the Mithril Caves, past all this shit, right? Past the snake in the marsh, which we haven't even seen yet, all the way past Fort Condor or whatever the hell they do there, to the harbor where Junyuan is, and it will, be this environment. I'm very curious, right? That's possible. That's not like that is, that's just
it's not impossible either.
That's way too much dank shit. Yeah, can't do that stuff. No, that's like the point of the PlayStation 5. That is the whole point.
I will have to probably buy a PlayStation 5.
I would like to
we'll have to save money for that.
That is a full demonstration of the PlayStation 5's power. That you can do stuff like that. That the game
I'm hoping
will allow you to.
I'm trying to stretch. I'm trying to stretch out the life of my PlayStation 4 as much as I can. I'm hoping this is a PlayStation 4 title as well. But if it's not, then much like Halo for the Xbox, when I was a wee lad, I will get a PlayStation 5 for Final Fantasy, because this rocks my world.
Still, the funky door is going to be somewhere in there. I tell you what, the creepy, untextured door is going to show up at some point. I hope it does. I hope it's an Easter egg. I want somebody to talk about the door in the story like it has a story. The door needs
The door is a character.
I don't think it's going to have a jump button. That'd be interesting if it did. Final Fantasy 16 does have a jump button. Although I have news for you. It does almost nothing. It's weird. From the little bit that we played, FF16 does have a proper jump button in its gameplay, but he goes not very high at all. He like kind of like lifts his feet a couple feet off the ground. And it really is jumping for the sake of jumping's sake. Whenever you come to a ledge that you can jump up, he auto
That's
jumps
unfortunate,
up.
though.
In combat, it's different. In combat, he can, like, you know, you can actually, like, move around and stuff like that. He actually has a real jump in combat.
What about a surprise Erica?
I don't need to know Aaron Ross. Aaron Ross is not the best. I don't know if he's Aaron Ross, but...
Sephiroth. That is definitely Elena. If people thought she was not going to be added, they're going to cut her.
That looks...
I remember hearing all this. Man, they're going to cut
Elena's
Elena.
fine.
This sucks. Yeah, they're going to cut Elena. All right, yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
With his crazy telescope area, right? The nutty virtual telescope, looking very accurate. I like that he has like constellation stuff all over him.
I like his. What I want that as a T-shirt instead.
All Bugenhagen's story really is.
I want that a
The foliage
T-shirt.
in, like a lot of the older version of the game, like the flowers and stuff like that, we ended up zooming in on them in like in Aerith's like flower garden. They were shockingly not a very small amount of movement. So it was like, oh, like damn, these low res flowers and stuff like that. It does not look great. They changed that in the later versions when Integrate came out. There was a huge like graphical boost to a lot
Everything.
of the game, not to mention
Made
the
it so
PC
much more
version.
realistic.
But when it showed up on PS5 and they got the big boost, all of that shit got, I think, an upgrade. The thing is, the game is like 7 to 8 months still from coming out. It's
7 to
still
8 months.
not an easy,
That makes sense.
you
It's not
know,
it's not
set of
easy
information
facelift.
right now. There's a priority to get certain things online in this trailer and to get things functioning in a certain way. This also isn't running at 60, you know, all that kind of stuff. This trailer was in 1080p.
But again,
There's
so
a lot
pretty.
of things that are coming online in a different way that are probably less important than something that is representative of an older build of the game that they've been working on for a long time, because 8 months until like going gold is a long time. I'm not too worried.
If they delay it, please. If you have a problem with it, delay it. Delay it, please. Delaying the game will save the game. Please.
Man, if it means that we get a higher frame rate instead of that, I'm cool with it. So let's go and fire up the trailer again and really pick it apart, because I'm not constrained by time. This time. A lot of people think that they're still
Like frame by frame. Frame by frame. Frame by frame.
I don't know how. There seems to be almost every single hint otherwise, but, you know, 2 timelines is 2 timelines, in my opinion, because we literally see at the beginning of this trailer, everybody's dead.
Yeah, everybody is dead, or like I mentioned just not too long ago, the idea that these are bodies transported in time, just like how Sephiroth is transported. He transported, and he is visible. He is so much more present in the beginning of the game than he was in 1997. He was more present than the father who went out to get milk and never came back. He was so integral in being there, being a guy that messed up the judgment and messed around with the issues that not only Tifa, not only that Cloud had, but the fact that he went against things that Aerith shouldn't have, but did already know. So it's like there's a chance that these are bodies that are not a good storytelling, like, factor within the main line. Because if it's 2 timelines, then that's great. If it's 1 timeline with 2 different parties moving in tandem, that'd be also cool. I'm excited to see what they decide on.
At the scene of this terrible disaster, caused by a massive tornado which swept through sectors 0, 1, and 2.
Everybody's dead. And there's
The wreckage of
Tifa's dead.
Like, that's dead. That is dead or passed out.
I don't think they're making it, bro,
search and
boys.
rescue operation.
The poor dog is dead. Jesus.
Somebody shot their dog.
Everyone is in really bad states, right? If they're not dead, they're not going on some grand adventure.
They're going to go to Hojo's lab to be experimented on. I know that
Also,
much.
wait. Aerith Aerith seemingly not doing great either. When Zach showed up, and he was like, you know, Aerith.
Aerith, where is she? Because she wasn't there.
When he goes to the church to wonder if everything's okay. That's what happened to her. She was a part of some crazy thing.
And I'm really worried that when Zach hears the news, he's gonna misinterpret this Aerith as his Aerith versus like understanding that his Aerith that remembers everything, as we discovered, like for some reason, as an ancient, maybe her mind went into the live stream and is in a continuous cycle. But again, he doesn't know what happened during his time gone, because it's almost like things are happening out of place, because for Zack to survive and drag Cloud into town, it's supposed to be happening way before the events of Final Fantasy VII. But if they're happening in tandem, then when does Zack catch up with Cloud in the game? When does he catch up with Aerith and just do things?
That happened. Some tornado thing. And funny enough, wait for it.
The feathers.
Wait for it. Jesus, is it really one frame? It might be one frame, bro. This is how much they're teasing. That dude. There it is.
Yeah, okay, cool, thank you. So that is the tornado that we experienced when we were fighting the Phantoms of Fate and the Arbiter of Fate.
So there's the tornado. For 3 frames? 2 frames. For 2 frames at the beginning of this.
And again, this is a situation where when we were leaving Shinra Tower, we weren't supposed to have that fight with Sephiroth so early, but he interrupted like a what is it? Like a gremlin. He just came in out of nowhere and just tortured the crew and expected to kill them within that tornado with the Arbiter of Fate.
It's showing us the events of the other timeline. The events that happened in quote-unquote the Singularity at the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake, where there's a couple of crazy tornadoes, one kind of representing one timeline and one representing the other, where everything's getting fucked up, where everything that's happening when all the crazy ghost whispers, before they die, before they're destroyed, the planet's trying to fix stuff. Right after this, what do they show? What happened in that timeline now is that Zack lives in some crazy existence where he doesn't get killed by all the Shinra soldiers and actually takes them out. However, the world he lives in is not the same as OGFF7.
Still here at the scene of this terrible disaster.
The world he lives in, the majority of the party has been either killed or greatly debilitated.
Because again, Zack has met a young Tifa, sure, but Red X never met him. So these are characters that are not going to be. I'm wondering if the next game will introduce a timeline for Zack where these 4 characters aren't important in his story, because in his story he needs to find Aerith while lugging and or finding Cloud.
They ain't going on a hunt for Sephiroth anytime soon.
Search and rescue operations are
Zack's Wtphu is also not doing great. But we have no idea where the hell Cloud is. Good question, you say. Where the hell's Cloud? Is he the famous barista that we've all been hearing about? Said this time and time again, that in Zack's timeline, Cloud doesn't end up being the soldier that he might end up being normally. Cloud could just end up being a barista in Midgar. He can just end up being some Joe Schmo. Who knows where the hell Cloud ends up being? Like who? I have no idea. All we kind of got the hint at is that in Zack's timeline, he's probably going to go on a similar adventure that the party is, which is to go after Sephiroth. That is likely going to be his goal. He's going to take the place of Cloud in that story. We were like, oh man, so is he going to join the party and now they're going to go on a crazy adventure to the Northern Crater? It's like, well, probably not. It's probably going to be different. Like Zack's going to have a different set of people that he's going to be running around with.
He might have his own party.
This is the... Wait for it.
God damn it. I don't want to know about your Mac Pro. Jeez.
Running around with, maybe. This is the, wait for it.
The unknown
This is the
journey.
Unknown journey.
Yeah.
This is exactly, look how this trailer is composed. This is the unknown journey. This is the timeline that we do not know how the events are going to conclude. We don't know where this stuff is going to go. We have a pretty good idea where the first timeline is. First timeline is following FF7. First timeline is all FF7. And then where do we see the other timeline? Right here.
This is the main timeline, and then Zach's in the alternative. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just look
There we
at
are.
it all. It's so green.
This is the known. This is the known journey.
There we go.
Going strong.
Going to those places, doing those things.
Yeah, because like when you think about it, because like when they express the unknown journey continues, they're gonna be talking about Zach, because we don't know what happened the 5 years since from the time Zach allegedly came back in this timeline till now, because it's under the impression that what if, because like he mentioned, like what if it's the same party but Zach's in it? How much of a difference would Zach have made if he was there alongside Cloud versus Cloud being who he was right now?
It's all FF.
It's so green. Even after
Yeah.
just look
There
at
we
it
are.
all. It's so green. Even after everything we've done to it.
Yep,
It's
there
still
we go.
going strong.
Going to those places, doing those things.
But in reality, it's barely hanging on.
FF7 stuff. Wonderful. Wonderful. FF7 stuff. They're just doing their thing, going their merry way, following the exact events of OG FF7. You know, cool. Very cool. And goddamn, does it look good?
So pretty.
Damn. Somebody was like, "Are those big windmills in the original game?" No, they're not. Like the closest thing is like Fort Condor. But they already like centralized Fort Condor into this interesting minigame in Integrate, so I don't know what they're gonna do with Fort Condor. That's kind of new stuff, right? There's obviously topical points of interest all over the place here. And granted, like the characters opening a door, going through some sort of crazy cave to reveal to you the open world is not the original game. This is a completely different thing. That is like leading you out of the funky Midgar zone, which is the plague-ridden kind of like sucked life dry scape of Midgar, you know, that kind of stuff. So I'm just thinking this is.
Yeah, because it might be just a situation where this will be where we start the game. It won't be just us back on the highway where we were just walking after the rain hits us. It'll just be us. This is where our journey ends up when we start the game. This will just be our checkpoint. This is where since the last game. I wonder like
something a little
they'll
bit
dive into
beyond,
it.
A little bit beyond Calm, where you get the backstory, right? A little bit after it. That's a nice touch, right? This is the whole point, is that you're probably going to go through Calm. You're going to get a big old backstory about Cloud and Sephiroth and all this shit. And possibly this is your first introduction to the open world. It could be the Mithril Caves. It definitely could be the Mithril Caves. But if it is the Mithril Caves, that's after the big effing snake. That's already after, like, several things that have happened. And it feels like this would just be a better moment to, hey, here's your game, boys. Like, here, open the door.
Just look at it all. It's so green. Even after everything we've done to it, it's still going strong.
It may look that way, but in reality,
I think there'll be a hallway in Calm. Yeah. Oh, it is Calm. There you go. Nailed it. Yeah, Calm has like a weird castle borders. Nailed it.
Okay.
Good call, chat. I didn't even see that. That's on like the big screenshot too. That's Calm, all right. You're assuming the game is in the same order as the original story-wise? I think it will be. I think the majority of things you're going to run into in this timeline are going to be the exact same shit.
Same
We just
order,
proved
but
it.
a little different.
That's the outside of Calm. There you go. I mean, there you go.
Just look at it all. It's so green. Even after everything we've done to it.
it's barely.
Oh, it's so pretty.
So
Good
pretty.
Lord.
Been doing this
There's
for
deer.
the past 5 years.
Can we eat deer?
I wouldn't be surprised if some of this stuff is leading up to the Mithril Caves, man. I wouldn't be surprised because it's getting danker, right? And as you get to the Mithril Caves, it's like a snake that has overtaken a big, nasty Martian shit.
Martian
yeah,
ship.
Kitase and the developers
Okay.
even said that large events are going to pretty much remain intact in Remake Part 2. So don't worry about things being cut. They're just, from what I understand, they're mostly adding stuff to it.
And you're asking me this?
If they're just trying to add more content onto an
Chocobo
existing
Farm?
game, it's gonna be really
As far
fun.
as I know,
It's gonna make me very
Can't think
happy.
of this stuff as being sequential, right? Granted, you get the chocobos to go through and get past the snake, but I wouldn't be surprised if the snake is, forced upon you.
Yeah, if it's just looming anyways. Like, regardless of what you do, you have to fight the snake.
So again, they're doing the exact same shit as they did in the previous trailer, the one we saw a year ago. They are focusing on the unreliable narrator part of Final Fantasy VII. And this is slightly spoilery. I hate to say that this stuff is slightly
Yeah.
spoilery, where Cloud absolutely is an unreliable narrator of Final Fantasy VII. It's what makes the story interesting.
Because of, like, his
Hearing it from a
PTSD.
specific point of view. However, putting into this trailer the element that the events that happened back in the day from other characters is also unreliable.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know who's telling the
Because just like what we discussed, like for as accurately reliable Cloud is to the events of Nibelheim, Tifa can't understand why. She feels like unreliable herself because she is confirming these things when she's never seen him there. And again, it's because of the helmet. He never took it off. He was a shy boy. But again, like the whole premise of everything from back then till now, nobody has been a reliable storyteller. Aerith has been saying and doing things that we don't understand why. As someone in this world, it's really quirky as to why Aerith has done certain things in the first game, and it's unreliable as to why she does that. This entire time, it's always been an assumption that Aerith is continually living this life until Sephiroth made a thing happen to it. Everything has been the same thing as 1997, but what's unreliable is why the Spectres of Fate have attacked her in the hallway that pushed her out there in that street, and for her to force the choice of the flower onto Cloud, because when you play the game, whether or not you wanted to, you are forced upon this flower. And I don't remember if you're forced to give the flower to Tifa or you can give to the kid still, because in 97 you were given a choice. You were given choices despite this unreliable narrative, to give the flower to Tifa for Horny Bone or to the kid to get a better, like, we cool, bro, I'm giving this flower to your kid, she likes it, she likes me, I guess you alright kind of situation. So everything in here has been unreliable since the moment the Spectres of Fate came out.
the right story. We don't know if Cloud is telling the right story, and we don't know if Tifa is telling the right story.
what's Cloud been doing these past 5 years? Where's he been? And you're asking me this?
Because what she doesn't know in the
Does everyone
original
have brain
game.
damage? No. Somebody's telling the right story, but people are also lying for a couple of really good reasons, which is where a lot of the events happen way down the line of why characters are lying.
This is gonna sound crazy.
Because again, like, we're in a situation to where if this is the Cloud from 1997 that's being messed up with, Tifa does not know that he was within an incubation chamber with Zack for 5 years after the events of Nibelheim. And we don't know from the events of Zack's last stand till the events of 7, we don't know if that's taking the course of a year, 6 months, 2 years, because for Cloud to be on that train is him being hired on as a mercenary under the reference of Tifa. But again, like, that's again, nobody's telling the truth and everybody's telling the truth.
But as far as I know,
Here's your mark.
It's so crazy. Like this, like the storytelling is like no one's telling the truth and everybody's telling the truth because of situations that, like, like Max saying, is for protection to themselves, and there's a reservation of being so bare with the truth.
The life stream. It is the very essence of our star.
So, interesting to point, we're at Cosmo Canyon here, meaning
Cosmo
that's
Canyon.
pretty far in. If we're talking about FF7 as a whole right now,
Coursing through its
and we're at this point of the game, how many places do you technically visit? If we got Cosmo Canyon, Calm, Chocobo Farm, Mithril Caves and the Snake, potentially Fort Condor, Junion Harbor, Costa del Sol, the Mountain Pass.
Two
behind,
discs. Across two
Medeal-
discs.
Not Medeal. What the hell? Mount Corel. Yeah, Mount Corel. Corel, right? The actual mining town. And then Corel leads to the Golden Saucer. And then that also leads to, after that, the prison, which also leads to
prison.
Gongaga. Yeah,
Gongaga.
that's pretty much Red 13's home. So 12 places. That's 12 locations approximately.
Apparently,
Nibelheim is
Gongaga
right
is
after
also
this,
where
right?
Zack
Nibelheim
is from, I
actually
think.
comes after Cosmo Canyon, right after it. So there's a lot.
So that's pretty
and
fun.
Probably even more little points of interest along the way. By this point in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, you have already seen 2/3 of everything that is the original Final Fantasy VII.
Mm-hmm.
Which is funny that they're showing this. Which is funny that this is already being shown and confirmed that you will travel the fuck out of this place if things are going in the approximate order that we think they are.
Because, like, that does bring into question, from what he's saying, this is very deep into the original timeline, so is it going to be a fun situation where things are going to be skipped, or are they going to be 100% following the same milestones that 1997 followed? Like, the 12 regions that he mentions within the game in 1997, up to this point, you would have traveled to 6 to 12 different places before coming to this professor, this astronomer. So, with how unreliable the storytelling is, will Aerith or will something make us take a shortcut? Because this is, again, possibly based on live stream manipulation. The overarching theory is, what if Sephiroth came back in time to make sure his ideals were realized? And he's doing this by messing with Cloud and interrupting him with the Spectre of Fate and so forth. So again, like, there's a possible chance in some theories that this is, again, a manipulation by Sephiroth and or Aerith in respects to light and darkness combating and maintaining the proper timeline, which of course we've already broke timeline and we are on our own, I believe, according to the first game.
According to Hojo,
People say this is the Crystal Caves. Yeah, I could see that.
connected to some.
It could definitely be the Crystal Caves. Crystal Caves. I think this is a Cave of the Gi. I'm gonna say this is underneath the caves. I think it's the Cave of the Gi, which is, you get Seto's story and stuff like that. You get Nanaki's story. Cave of the Gauge. Yeah, I could definitely see it. It could be a Nibelheim reactor. It could. There's a lot of things in that area that could look sort of similar to this. Lucrezia, definitely. That's much later. That kind of stuff is way later. People are already wondering, will Sid and Vincent be in this? We don't see
think
Sid
so.
and Vincent.
I don't
where
think
are
so.
they? There's a whole 7 months, bro, of marketing that they have leading up to the finality of this. There's 7 months, so they have to sparse out these elements. They're just gonna save those things for big reveals at Tokyo Game Show or other PlayStation experiences that are gonna happen, PlayStation showcases, whatever. So I wouldn't be surprised about that at all. I think they'll both be in the game as well as Kate Sith. We're just gonna have to wait for those character reveals to eventually happen.
Mm-hmm.
Shadows,
Everybody's rushing, man.
I believe in Cobra.
Are Are we also, are we 100% convinced that this is Reno? Not Reno. That this is Rufus.
Rufus.
Are we
Yeah,
100%
it sounds like
convinced
Rufus,
That this voice is Rufus.
or like the
Yeah.
cat Sith.
I just haven't heard Rufus talk in a long time. It is okay.
According to Hojo, they're connected to Sephiroth.
Because also, you know, Vincent would also know Hojo.
Shadows of the Man, I believe he called them.
Shadows of the Man, because again, like with
Interesting.
Sephiroth
Could be
coming, sung.
Yeah, everyone's saying it's Rufus. In Japanese, it is Rufus. Okay, there you go. Then if it's more confirmed in the Japanese version that it's Rufus, then it's Rufus, and you know we don't have to worry about this anymore. Sounds too smug to be Vincent. Yeah. So once you get chocobos, you kind of just get them.
Early on, that's pretty nice. But I would run anyways. I would just do normal travel, I feel.
Sephiroth was in Midgard.
So this to me is calm, right? This to me comes
This
across
looks like
as
it, yeah.
the calm flashback. There's only one other place this could possibly be, and there's a couple of rooms that you stay at. There's the town right before you go into Union Harbor, where I forgot about that place too. Right outside Union Harbor, there's a small town where you meet this girl and her dolphin to get into the city. And you kind of stay the night at some place, the little cute town. There's also Gongaga, which you get some weird flashbacks in, you know?
Okay.
But the aesthetic of it, everything just screams, this is the flashback sequence in Calm.
Because when we go to Gongaga, we're gonna see a like flashback of Zack, I feel.
Why come back now? After 5 years, doing who knows what?
I don't want to know about your ad. Dear God. I want to know about Sephiroth.
Well, now, think we woke it up.
But why is Barrett and Red 13 like separated?
So I'm thinking, obviously, like Red 13 and Barrett are off doing their own adventure here. Granted, vengeance mode.
That sounds so nice.
This is a boss fight that they added to the Mithril Caves.
Okay.
Mithril Caves you just kind of run through in the
But this
OG
is a new
game,
boss apparently.
and you talk to the Turks really briefly, and that's about it.
Which is
So it's extremely small and not much. It's like 1 or 2 screens.
Which makes sense though, because like that explains why in this part of the trailer it's Barrett and Red 13 that's fighting this monster, and like almost in the same area but in a different corner of the caves, you're fighting Elena and Rude.
So they're just expanding these areas. They're going to turn the Mithril Caves into like a story sequence area, and another spot to introduce other characters like Elena and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Feast your eyes on the Turks' latest and greatest. Elena.
She may be new, but she's still a Turk.
Yeah, and then Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith are over here. Ouch. I'm assuming you like split up somewhere in the Mithril Caves just because it's probably a maze, you know?
Because it's a big place, yeah.
So sick. Jesus!
Everything is the outside is so
Jesus.
pretty.
You can literally see Midgar in the background, right?
Yeah,
We are
right
not
there.
that far away. You can see how all of the mountains in the distance in this direction are nothing but barren, like plantless environments, because that's the way it is in the old game. There's no life around Midgar. The life of the planet's been sucked dry. So yeah. there's
Yeah,
Midgar in
so
the
like
distance,
it's
and
kind of like the way you
finally
suck,
getting to a point where
you
there's
like
some,
you draw
actual foliage and shit.
resources, and the injection
God
point's just
damn.
drained.
So sick. This is so sick. I don't love the bit rate though. Jesus. Oh, there's an insane tidbit here. So, we're
Why
seemingly
is Tifa
controlling
back
Red
there?
13, as Red 13 is flipping, dipping, and zipping. However, we essentially get confirmation of our quote-unquote theorized PHS system. right here.
PHS.
You might not have noticed if this stuff is really small, because in the party is Red 13, Cloud, and Barrett.
Okay.
Obviously, Aerith is back here. If you look way back here, there's Tifa. They're essentially cheering you on from the background, but not engaging.
Okay.
This is a confirmation that Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to be active teams in a similar way that Final Fantasy X is.
Yeah, to where you can
are
like
always
switch in
given
the middle
your
of
full
combat.
party. We presume this a long time ago, right? We presume that, yeah, of course, in the open world, you need to get a PHS and have access to your other team members to just hot swap them out, right? I hated the fact that there's a big aerial enemy, and oh god, how do we get rid of that aerial enemy? Well, I need a magic user, or I need Barrett. So
we can swap them
I
mid-combat.
have to go switch out my party. I can't do anything about that. We don't see them actively switch in.
But I want to see
This
the
is here
active
for a
switch
reason.
in though.
If you look at them, they're not fighting. They're like waiting to be brought in. They're like specifically like cheering you on and waiting to be brought in the background. So who knows, right? It's definitely my prediction. And how would you expand the combat of FF7? I think you would allow them to hot swap in just like Final Fantasy X.
Which looks like what's gonna happen.
So
She launches Tifa with
now,
magic.
It's like, okay, so this is a different scenario. In the very next frame, seemingly in the same fight, you always have Cloud in your party, right? Like you always.
Because he's the
you always have Cloud in
protagonist.
your party in the OG FF7. You can just swap in other team members, right? I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, because they show the example of seemingly the same area, seemingly a similar battle, and then it cuts to later, and now it's Cloud, Aerith, and Tifa. So at some point they swapped in. And now they're doing crazy dual
Cloud and
text
Yuffie
shit.
changing, yeah.
Can we even, amongst this absolute pixelated mess, can we get a glimpse of like Yuffie or Barrett or
Doing a
Red
thing
13 in
together?
the background here?
I
Can
don't
we
see
even
it.
get that?
I don't think so.
I don't know if we're going to be able to do it. Amongst this insane pixelated garbage, we found it. So,
Oh, right
back
there.
here,
That's Tifa
when
way
the
back
party member
there.
isn't actively being utilized, they are out of commission. Like there's some Where's Waldo is my other party member, because you don't need to worry about them. When I'm assuming you're going to press a button of some kind or use some ATB, and then bam, you're going to be able to pull in the other member on the fly. It'll probably cost something. There's Tifa. Jeez. The dual techs look insane. Cool.
Keep it away from me!
So this is
Trauma.
I believe
It's trauma.
at the bottom of the boat, right? Pretty sure this is at the bottom of the boat. Yuffie's with you. She's all upset because she's barfing on the boat, right? And she hates Sephiroth.
They say she's
You know.
a monster, that she can peer inside you, into the very depths of your soul.
Fight with Genova. That's what's being called. Okay.
Do we fight Genova again until City of the Ancients? This is the boat. Yeah, this is all I'm trying to figure out is this is for sure the boat, right?
How far is the
This
City
is
of the
first
Ancients
Genova
from the
encounter
boat?
outside of the one that you get at the very beginning of the game.
You, into the very depths of your soul, that she can become those you hate, those you fear, those you love.
Like Cloud?
So,
You. Yeah.
this guy changed. This is Cloud, right?
Uh-huh.
In part 1, you get a vision of specifically this dude.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Marco. It's no shit. Your friend Marco
Marco?
that is next door to you in part
Yeah,
1.
Marco
So
looked like this.
Another complement of the alternative timeline, because Cloud is being given a vision of timeline number 2, which is Zack's timeline. And now we have an idea of where the hell is Cloud in Zack's timeline. He's not doing so hot. Now it isn't Cloud just, I'm sorry, it isn't Zack just on some old merry joyous romp up to the top of the top of the world. No, he is literally tracking Cloud, who's maybe gone missing and has fallen prey just like Marco did to Sephiroth influence. So now Cloud is this guy R6. He became that dude in this timeline, and Zack's trying to save him. Ooh, and that's suddenly an interesting cadence to Zack's story, that suddenly both of these teams are going up to the Northern Crater for different reasons. They are, you know, now Zack has a good reason to go.
You murdered my dad. You burned my village.
You know that I killed her. So, who is she?
And again, as an unreliable storyteller, he's trying to mess with the way that Cloud is perceiving reality, because like it's not great, it's terrible.
And a lot of people are confused by this, right? A lot of people are somewhat confused by what does he mean? What is this? This is almost unchanged from the OG game. It's obviously more embellished, but in the OG game, Sephiroth is fucking with Cloud all the way until the Northern Crater, because Sephiroth wants Cloud to give him one thing, the Black Materia. In the OG game, Cloud nearly kills Aerith when the Black Materia shows up, because he's under Sephiroth's influence. All this really is just Sephiroth fucking with Cloud. And it's the same shit. This isn't some alternate timeline thing. Like, did Tifa die in the other timeline? Like, there is a lot in the original game that is kind of unexplained of what happened at Nibelheim in between that time. No, Tifa does actually get fucked up, but she doesn't die. And I don't want to go into too much, because this is like getting really deep into the story of what the hell happened, because ultimately Nibelheim is where all the interesting shit happens in OG FF7. All the crazy interesting bullshit goes down as far as like, so what happened that night? Like, what actually took place that evening? And it's the accounts of some characters versus other characters, and to find out like the truth. And the truth is still a very critical part of the game. They're setting up this ire of like, oh, who's lying? Sephiroth is now telling Cloud that Tifa's lying. Tifa thinks that Cloud is lying. Nobody believes anybody's actual story. The funny thing is that Crisis Core, which just came out, already gives us a definition of what happened. The truth was in Crisis Core, right? We already know exactly what goes down.
But the characters do not.
So it's funny to me that they would release that game and give you all that information. I think there's another thing that is going to happen with Cloud's story, with Tifa's story of what happened, with Sephiroth's story, that we do not know yet with FF7. That's going to be some unknown shit of how they're going to tie all this shit together. Now it's the big question of how do they tie these two timelines together? Because at the end of this shit, we have no direct confirmation of Zack's timeline outside of the little snippets, you know? We saw a whole bunch of Zack like running around and being fine before, and no shit, now this is the only snippet we get of Zack's timeline. This is it. In his
As
timeline,
the untold journey.
fucked up, and the one little bit right here. This is seemingly a snippet of Zack's timeline where Cloud is, you know, Ramon
Missing.
or Pablo or Marco going up to the Northern Crater. Cloud takes that guy's place. Fascinating. The coolest part is that we have an idea where this is going, and we can come to a pretty good conclusion that there is two timelines. There's a Zack Alive timeline and the regular timeline, which is just most likely regular shit is going to be happening. But how it's going to go down, I don't know.
I want to know how like he gets up there
playing
then.
a Zack at some point?
Like, that's an important like
I have no idea.
question to ask.
What I do know. The game is fucking massive, bro.
Okay, so it is a confirmation that it's only PlayStation 5. So much like the way I got into Halo, we're going to be buying a PlayStation 5. We're going to be saving up money. Saving money is definitely going to be a thing on top of like my whole life in March. Things are happening in March on top of that. And I need to save money for this. Who knows? I really want to play on launch, but I don't know.
Is fucking massive. I don't know if they're gonna do split campaigns. Like one side of the story is Zack on one disc, one side of the story is Cloud on another disc, I don't think they're going to do that. I think Zack is integral to the whole story. And
yeah, so what might be happening is that they're just going to find a nice checkpoint to say climax. And at that climax, it's going to be a rug pull where you're going to be questioning like, wait, what just happened? Wait, what's going on? So I think at that point, that's going to be when they're going to say, please insert disc 2. If you have the physical. If you have the main game digital, then it won't ask you that question. But for it to just like mess with you and just say, hey, I stopped you at a good point. You want to come back? Much like during Across the Spider-Verse, that's going to like stop you right there.
He's just gonna be a part of it. A lot of people are thinking, yeah, disc 2 is gonna be Zack's timeline. I'm gonna say no.
No.
I don't think they would segment pivotal story things like that. Because if you think from a game development standpoint, you're pretty much asking people that are brand new to FF7, do you want the Cloud disc or the Zack disc? And everyone's like, well, I played the previous one, so I want the Cloud disc. I don't know who the fuck Zack is, so fuck the Zack disc. I'm just going to throw that disc away. You know? So I definitely don't think that's how they're going to do it. I think disc 2 is just going to be more game data. It's just going to be more.
Should be more. Yeah, you know what's also more? He has a part 2. So this video is going to be super long already. But, you know, let's just get into it. And we're going to be really excited to see what's going on. Because, again, like, for them to just, like, delve into this, it's going to be pretty fun. I'm really excited to, like, have a conceptual idea as to what their plans are for this game. Because, again, like, for everyone to be an
Summit?
For everyone being an unreliable narrative, they're just gonna like say, hey, who's lying, who's not? Everybody's lying, but everyone's not telling the truth. So, but hey,
it was in the trailer. They just didn't use them. Yeah, if you didn't see it, there were summon commands in the trailer.
Timeline
convergence. Will there be a
convergence.
timeline convergence?
I would hope so.
Well, of course there will be.
Yeah.
Do you want to get spoiled to where this eventually is going to go? I mean, you
Spoil.
want to actually start like thinking
Spoil.
about it? Because I talked about it 3 years ago. We talked about it when we finished FF7 Remake, where this is going to go. It's almost guaranteed that now we have confirmation that Zack is most likely not just losing his girlfriend, maybe losing his girlfriend in this timeline. We don't know.
He might be losing his best friend
the love
too.
of his life here. Also is losing his best friend to the influence of Sephiroth. He's
because he's still
everything
under
in
Mako
his
poisoning
timeline,
at the time.
As, you know, every single character in FF7 OG timeline is losing stuff too, because ultimately this game and 7 Remake is about dealing with loss. That is a huge part of the game. It's about life, it's about the planet, but it's also about how the people in the planet deal with loss as well as losing your own planet. So what's happening in Zack's timeline? He's losing everything. I don't know who he's going to be going up there with. We have no
because from my understanding is like the assumption in Zack's timeline is that he lost every chance with his girl, possibly. He lost Tifa and Barrett and Red 13, whoever the fuck he was, for Zack. And then will this be a situation where he meets up with Sing from the Turks? Because if you guys don't know Crisis Core, Sing was trying to save Cloud. Once he found out what was happening and the resurgence of Zack, Sing was trying to do his very best to rescue Zack. So I'm wondering, will Zack become a part of like the Turks because he's displaced? It's like, because like at the end of it, for all the times that Aerith was writing letters to Zack and Sing was supposed to be the messenger, he never. The question is, for those 5 years that Zack was being incubated, Sing was holding on to those letters. So when he found Zack finally, that's one of the gifts he would have given to him. So the idea that Singh lost his best friend, Zack, and Zack lost everything in the original timeline. Here, we're gonna figure out what Zack gained by being alive, by not dying in his canon event.
No idea what his party's going to be. It might be Jesse, right? It could be those characters that we see that are alive somehow.
Yeah.
Potentially in
Oh God! Now that he mentions it, because from the ending of remake, it's alluding to people from Avalanche, like Biggs and Wedge and Zach and Jessica, Jesse. Like, it's alluding to the potential that they're at that orphanage in within the Sector 7 that survived. So who knows? Like, there does show signs of Best Girl like being alive in a certain way, but who knows?
Timeline. But where does this shit converge? To me, it makes a lot of sense that this whole story, at the end of part 3, everything ends with a big confrontation of Sephiroth. On one end, you have Cloud and his party. On the other hand, you have Zack and his party. And he gets to fight next to his friend again. The friend that he potentially loses, which is Cloud. That they get to party up. And you get to beat the in a different way that is different from the OG FF7. What happens? You and Cloud get to beat the shit out of that piece of shit. That sounds like the greatest fucking possible conclusion that you could have for this crazy timeline shit.
This crazy timeline makes no sense.
Finally team up to beat the shit out of them.
Because Sephiroth ruined their life.
This likely would be the case 3 years ago. That Zack's in a different timeline. They're eventually going to converge at the very end of the game, at the very end of everything. Not the convergence at the Northern Crater itself here, but I'm pretty sure that the reunion in part 3, because part 3 is likely going to be called Reunion, but it's not the reunion of all of these, experimented folks that are going to be meeting at the Northern Crater. It's the reunion of
Zack and Cloud
throughout the timelines. That makes perfect sense.
And Aerith too, because Aerith is someone that, that's like a part of this like convergence too, because the convergence is also including information that Aerith is withholding. Like, there are still things that Aerith didn't open up about with honesty, because there are things that she still like is holding back. But again, it plays on the whole life stream and how everything is like a cycle. So for them to disappear into the life stream to repeat time in a loop, that's because Sephiroth's whole goal right now is to break the cycle of the life stream. So who knows?
I'll be extremely happy if that's the whole point of this, to bring Zack back in some way. My God, dude. Yeah, wasn't there another game called Reunion? Wait a minute, wasn't there? Crisis Core Reunion.
Yeah.
That's right. So fuck.
I know. I know. I was so upset. That they messed up like the theming.
They gotta have some sort of crazy, multifaceted name that's gonna mean a billion different things. The same way that remake and rebirth mean, because remake means like 4 different things technically.
Or there could be a possible chance that this Cloud that Zack is trying to find becomes the new body for Sephiroth. That would be such a douche move, just to be, hey, I took your best friend, now I'm going to become your best friend, and I'm going to destroy you in your best friend's body, because Sephiroth has became an idea. If you watched Advent Children, to where the 3 antagonists, one of them was supposed to transform into Sephiroth, and it turns out that the guy with the dual-bladed katana became Sephiroth, and his dual-bladed became a longer katana.
Throughout the story of part 1, we don't know what the hell Rebirth is exactly referring to, but we have a pretty good idea. But we don't know the things it's hiddenly being referred to. I think Revengeance is the best one.
Revengeance
Definitely Revengeance. Revelation?
Revelation, like the Bible. Maybe make it biblical. That makes a lot of sense if they make it biblical.
Meet remarkable.
I don't need to meet anybody. Please, can you just move on, because we're in a situation that I want to be a part of. So excited for more. But again, just this beautiful world is just open. It's vast. I'm wondering if we're gonna speed through certain content, just to shorten the game's linearity, because this game is gonna be just as linear as the other game, because
Look at this fun shit. Fun chocobo shit.
Look at that butt.
Sprint, dismount, scent, scour.
Scour.
hell?
What
can
what
chocobos
scour
do
mean?
now?
How can Chocobo scour?
Yeah, I'm actually kind of curious on this too.
Sentiment,
I'm
like, is it
curious
a
what
way?
the hell these ruins are? You know what I'm gonna predict? That this is new shit added to Final Fantasy VII.
In the same, it might be new shit to like further like pad the buff out the time, because again, like I mentioned before, like in the original timeline, in the remake, we've never seen Roosh before, the pompadour wearing soldier with the motorcycle. We only see him during that one event and then no more, because he was never part of the original timeline. So what we're gonna probably see is a deviation of the timeline to pad things out in the runtime, but also just to like then bridge each of like the 12 locations together further.
Different from the OG. I'm gonna predict this is Benora. This might be a bit later in the story, but I am going to predict that this is Benora after it got nuked. Benora does not show up at any point in the OG7. It's technically like because it's essentially nuked from existence. What's Benora? It's a place, a town that exists that Shinra wipes off the map from Crisis Core. Not
During
Gundam,
Crisis Core.
Different
Okay.
place. It's where Angeal used to live. Say Costa del Sol. Oh, Costa del Sol is just a small place. It'll make it, bro. I think Costa del Sol will make it. For sure. I think once again, we're going to get references to Genesis and shit, but it's going to be referential the same way that Genesis was referenced in FF7 Remake. Technically, they already have injected those elements into the game. Weiss, Genesis, Cisne, the other guy,
Yeah, because Weiss, you see him at the end of Intergrade.
Email, they said Kunsel. They've already put those elements into the game, and guess what? They're not cringy and horrible. They're actually fine.
That's really good.
They actually kind of added to the story. Nero, yeah, was added. Deep Ground stuff wasn't horrible, cringy bullshit in the same way that it was either in Crisis Core or Dirge. It actually amplified the story.
Wait, what?
Same way that it was either in Crisis Core or Dirge. It actually amplified the story and made it kind of great. It's funny, like you can take some of those elements, but you don't have to inject exactly how they used to be in their old horrible fashion. I don't know how they pulled it off. I mean, it seems kind of easy. They just treat it in the same way they treat the other characters. It's funny. FF7 Intergrade will almost make you want to revisit Dirge of Cerberus until you actually play it, and you're like, nope, don't need to play it.
Hey, in my defense, Dirge of Cerberus was a fine game. If you turn in the same way that the Flash movie is, if you turn off your brain and you just play it because you are Vincent Valentine, if you play the game just because you're of the core crew, then you'll enjoy it. It's like, it's a shooter, yes. It's a weird way to incorporate stories, yes. But for what it did, Dirge of Cerberus expanded the world for you. And if this game expands on the idea that, because at the end of Dirge of Cerberus, you get a revival of Genesis. So is Genesis going to be a main character finally? Is Genesis going to be involved? Because after the events of Dirge of Cerberus, we hear nothing. We hear nothing about about Final Fantasy VII. We hear nothing. But for them to, if they canonize Dirge of Cerberus, are we going to see in the final game? I want to see in the final game a confrontation of some sorts between between Cloud, which is the successor of Angeal, with Genesis fighting Sephiroth. Like, that would be a very cool event to where it's almost like the fact that Cloud was grandfathered into the fight against Sephiroth because Genesis has been revived at the tail end of the primary timeline. So what if he came back in the same way that Sephiroth came back? I want to see Genesis come back, because that ending to Dirge of Cerberus left me personally like waiting, like, why?
You definitely don't need to watch any of the cutscenes. Dirge of Cerberus retroactively made me dislike Final Fantasy VII. So no, just don't do it. Don't fucking do it, bro. Please. Mental damages.
I respect that.
According to Hojo, they're connected to Set.
I respect that because, again, like, not many people liked the direction that Dirge of Cerberus went. I found it fine. It was an excuse for me to be within the world that was Final Fantasy VII, so I really liked it. I just wanted to be in there.
He's alive. But why come back now?
We didn't get my real wish though. We didn't get my Metal Gear 5 title screen. That doesn't show up anywhere in here. I mean, it still can happen technically. It still technically could happen. But I desperately want 7 Rebirth to cold open into the flashback. Cold open. Right into the back of the truck. That's where the game starts. Not even any explanation of what's going on. Cold open into the flashback.
After 5 years, doing who knows what.
That's a crotch. I am so sorry. That is a crotch. America, right? That is a crotch. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But again, like, these details
Summons, but they're right here. Bottom left.
in the
commands
command,
menu.
yeah. And there's like a materia at
Two
the end
stocks,
of
just
it.
like before. Red materia. You just don't see them.
Because the red materia could be Ifrit or it could be something else.
Because they're obviously going to save that for later marketing. They're just gonna save that for marketing down the line when they redesign the way the summons work and shit. The summons might be more functional than last time, right?
Mm-hmm.
They actually
Hopefully.
might, do more things. Because, let's be real, the summons didn't work great in 7 Remake Part 1. Some of the summons were okay. Some were borderline broken in how good they were. But some of them just were too expensive. You barely use them because it was better to use your ATB on other shit. So clearly that needs a revamp.
It needs, because, like, you had the choice to either use a skill from your ATB or wait and defend until you can summon. So it was much faster to avoid using summons unless you had to.
For that, and probably realize that, oh yeah.
And I do want an excuse in this new game to just, hey, I come into battle, okay, boom, 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 finish with the summon as an attack. But, like, for it to waste my ATB, I don't want that to happen.
They were cool sometimes, but they didn't really do much because they were very situational and very expensive. And then you get Carbuncle that's just busted as fuck.
Eyes on the Turk's latest and greatest.
It built ridiculously fast. It was literally pay to win DLC. It made the game easy.
I didn't get that.
I'll go on a media blackout closer to release. I'm definitely on the goddamn FF7 media hype train from this point forward. Don't worry. Just like the OG game, I am on this shit. Woo, I'm all the way.
But unlike him, I won't get. I'm not going to be in that media. I don't think I'll be in that media blindness. I want to learn more because I want to get hyped. I know I will get disappointed, but I want to be a part of it. What?
Don't you think this has a triple tech? I mean, it could later on. It could.
Triple tech.
It's funny, we actually see Cloud, like, colliding with the environment here. This bitch just goes straight into a rock. This is to show you it's an actual real game. Because Cloud just goes, oop, I'm just going to go inside this fucking rock. Beat ass. Surprised they used that one.
Might be like a different angle.
Is that the same in the Japanese one, chat? We have to check out the Japanese one. Yeah, the Junon cannon. Was saying we don't see. Yeah, somebody was saying we don't see any enemies in the environment. In 7 Remake Part 1, you do. You're not just getting random fights in Remake Part 1 from what I understand, from what I remember. So I likely will be.
Because, like, yeah, there's, like, certain points to where you're forced to fight monsters, or you can tactfully, like, avoid them. You can fight or avoid, because the enemy scales up to your level, so there's never a real point in just leveling your character other than leveling up your skills and earning new abilities. There was always a mechanic to level up to get certain things, but in terms of trying to overpower the game, it's not going to let you. You're just going to overpower them in skill, but not in level.
The same thing, you know? Probably just more spaced out. Was there four spots on the map there? God damn, there is, dude. Holy shit. This is like main quest. This is sunken.
Side quest.
This is who the fuck knows. Maybe a
chocobo
thing and then this thing.
And then
How
a
many
hunt.
goddamn things are there? No, I don't think it's open world. People are saying it looks open world. I don't think it's open world. I think it's just very big zones. I think it's
Big
just
zones.
really large areas.
Keep it away from me!
They say
Look at the map distance during the Wtphu dual tech. Yo, okay.
The map distance.
Holy shit!
Oh, like thousands
Dude,
of
the point
meters.
of the map you need to get to is 11,000 meters away?
No, that's just
Buddy,
two
where the
locations on top
fuck?
of each
You know what
other.
that screams to me? What are they fighting here?
Just mob.
Because this looks like... Hang on a second.
Okay.
I'm cooking. I think we know where this is, chat. I don't think this is the prison. These canyons look pretty similar. And they're fighting one of these crazy dogs. And they're showing Wtphu here. To me, it reminds me of On the Way to Wutai. When you're on the way to Wutai, it's a bunch of like brown mountains on the way there. I would love to see what enemies you fight on that path. If there's a video, it looks like a Nibel wolf. Yeah, it could be. I wonder, because most of the enemy locations have been fairly well referenced, and the telephone poles and shit. You know, it could be Nibel. There's all these fucked up like telephone poles and shit.
Telephone poles.
There's,
That's
like
10,000.
remnants of stuff. It's hard to say.
Okay.
We're trying to pick apart where our characters are fighting in this trailer.
I don't want an ad about toothbrush. My teeth are perfectly clean, man. Excuse me. You're being so rude. I have clean teeth. I don't know why Dr. Phillips thinks that I need to clean my teeth. I clean my teeth 2 times a day. 3 times a day sometimes if I'm, like, generous. Liar. You dare. But protein. That looks like protein, you know? That might be good.
A lot of lightning birds on the way to Wutai. I thought that was Corel Mountain. Wasn't the train tracks in Corel Mountain where you fight a lot of lightning birds? It's funny because we can actually like most likely find these enemies. We could probably look up the majority of enemies that you fight here and get a decent idea of where we are. I remember these funky elephants. They're fighting a wolf in this thing. I don't know what. Red 13, I can't even tell.
It's
what
a plant monster, it looks like. Like a lynx?
Some weird funky little creature.
Because lynxes have 2
you know
tails.
what? I don't know. I'm very curious. I'm very curious if this is Wutai or on the way to Wutai. Really curious. Could be a lot of places though. It's just funny that we're seeing like Red 13 and, you know, Wtphu teaming up.
Because they never met before.
Yeah, we're playing FF7 GeoGuessr at the moment. Like, no shit. So when they start this yo, hold up. Cooking. When they start this attack,
She is launched by Aerith.
it goes, like it gets pocketed into the right side of the limit break. Right there. This is still Aerith and Tifa, right? Yeah, it's still Aerith and Tifa. So it does something.
It's like a double limit
change.
break.
It didn't take away this. We didn't see it get removed from here.
It could be like a double
Interesting.
limit break, yeah.
We see it happen with Wtphu and Red 13. So yeah, they like pocket a portion of their limit when they dual tech. Weird. Yeah, I don't know. What we do not see, and once again, it's Cloud and Barrett doing a similar thing. What we don't see is this ever getting used, right? These pips. We still don't see these pips actually getting used, you know? Additional limit bar. I don't know, man. I mean, we're just making observations here, but I don't know.
So it looks okay. So what's discussed over here then? Trailer breakdown. Yeah, because I think that's as much information as I can pull from this. Just because, like, again, there's been a lot of like news with this game. My hair's floofed, but the important thing is like everything he says is relatively true, and right now he's just going into the breakdowns to like the game mechanics, the way summons is gonna work. But again, I'm super excited for this game, and you know, going back into the world of Final Fantasy VII, I'm gonna enjoy it. I fell in love with it since the first time like I feast my eyes on it during the Advent Children. So what I'm gonna be doing, I think, when we get a release date, is I'm gonna do a new game plus of Final Fantasy VII just to enjoy that world again. So who knows? I'm excited. I can't wait to see what's going on, and I can't wait for more content. So let me know in the comments below about your theories. Was this video too long? This is like almost cracking like a 90-minute podcast about me reacting to Max reacting to a breakdown. So, just let me know your thoughts about the game. I really want to come back to the world of Final Fantasy VII, and I want to see who is telling the truth, who's telling a lie, and when will things converge. Let me know in the comments below your theories and thoughts. And as always, I'm Tyler. I'm your friend, and I'll see you next time. Bye.